again, you can take a nap, not a nap, an app. Sorry, not take a nap. It sounded so much like taking a nap. No,
You can dream of the languages.
you can, but then you don't need to be online for that. You can just sleep. So it doesn't work in this kind of situation. What I'm saying is that you can go download an app, connect to the internet, being able to easily connect it to anybody, and finding people, like you said, that share your views, and being able to then have the experiences and enrichment of your life in person. So it is weird, because it's like the online aspect, I think it's an extremely important one. But it's so nice to be able to see people that have taken Tandem, which is an app that, like, it is a language learning app, but it's also about making long-lasting friendships, long-lasting connections, to be able to see somebody that's taken to the next level and being in unexpected places. Let me ask you, what other unexpected places or unexpected experiences did you had on Tandem? Or like a little bit outside of the app as well? You mentioned like a trip to Georgia. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I spent about 7-8 weeks in Georgia 4 years ago. And yes, I was exploring the country, working remotely from Tbilisi, from the capital, for a while, and then traveling a bit around. One of the reasons was actually that I had always wanted to explore the country. I'd heard amazing things about the beautiful nature, mountains, people, and so forth. But I also knew that it was a chance to actually venture out and actually use my Russian more often, because it's one of the post-Soviet countries, and Russian is still somehow used but understood fairly well. So, but you mentioned the relation to Tandem. I remember that back then, so before I went, I just wanted to ask some locals about some tips, where to go, what to do, what not to do. And I realized that Tandem is also a good way to do it, because some people, not all of them, but some people like to share their experience, information about their country, about their homeland. And this way I happened to meet, I think like 3 or 4 nice people. We are still in touch until now. It was nice.
So
and all of that, okay, I should add that all of that was done without premium, but with premium would be even nicer maybe, because you can, as far as I know, you can really connect with someone from the same city, right? Or
Exactly. So if you have Tandem Pro, you have 2 location-based options. So you can either meet somebody that lives close to you, or you can use the travel function and then also like get to know people to places you want to travel to. So these make it a bit more easier, exactly the things that you just described, that you wanted to like get to know Georgian people and then can get in touch with.
And also getting information about the city, because like, for example, some people that I've met have been using it for the travel in Brazil, but they couldn't like go to just Rio de Janeiro. They wanted to go to a specific city in the coast, and they managed to find people from there and share bunk bed with them. So it was a whole different adventure, and I used them myself out of curiosity to find like people that are Armenian speakers in Berlin, which is a language that I'm interested in. So I could just be like, oh, okay, that person technically lives very close to me, so you can meet them and you can have talks with them. So there's a lot of applications of the pro version. But again, to connect with people, you don't need to be a pro. All of the connecting features, like the one-on-one chats, are all available in the free version of Tandem. So you can easily find people. And we found a lot of very, case studies on how it is used. But let's now steer a little bit of an interesting direction, because your life, while it was full of travel and like opportunities to apply your Russian skills all over the world, had a pretty big, like, I'd say not roadblock, because it's not the right word, but rather like a big moment of testing, a little bit more of a serious testing. So maybe I'm gonna give you a little bit more like freedom to explain what the situation was in February of 2022. Something specific happened and you were involved with your Russian language. Could you tell us a little bit more of what happened?
So when the invasion happened in 2022 in February, almost immediately quite a lot of big numbers of Ukrainian refugees started arriving in the Czech Republic, including my city, of course. And almost immediately people started gathering help, and there were different ways to help, from providing the refugees with shelter, food, clothes, anything, simply because there were a lot of people. But apart from that, so we had a big refugee center set up in my city, and there was a need for volunteers who could speak Ukrainian or Russian. And so I immediately became interested. And although back then my Russian level was lower, it was actually before the trip to Georgia where I got much more fluent. But I pushed myself a bit, and I said I would give it a go. And so I applied, and I spent some days volunteering, basically providing some basic information to the refugees who came to register, to get health insurance. They were provided some help, accommodation, and so on. So I was one of the people who just gave the most important basic information, but my level was basically sufficient. And also, I guess the situation itself forces you a bit to just get efficient, get the job done, and don't focus too much on some grammar, pronunciation, and so forth.
Especially because the concept that you were giving to them were pretty, I'd say, technical like elements, like explaining the way that to get health insurance and all bureaucratical stuff and basic information. Like it sounds basic, but I do think that having the ability to explain those precise things, because if someone messes up telling you how to do a certain bureaucratical process, it can cost a lot. Not like actual cost, but what I'm saying is that you have to be pretty precise in the moment. Or at least that's something that I would assume. Maybe in the moment you can get a lot of information, pretty quickly.
And what did it feel like for you after like having this experience of learning Russian for fun and for your own interest, knowing that like using the language now for people in front of you with really high stakes because it was their real life depending on it? What did that switch or that situation feel like?
Well, it's true that up until this moment, there weren't really any, let's say, practical opportunities to use my skills, because it was only, as you said, for fun, making friends, understanding my favorite song, for example. But then I realized that it happened to be useful, and I also knew that since the people were coming in high numbers, I could do a little bit more. So I also remember that my Russian friend who lives in my city and we also set up a Telegram group for where the refugees could exchange some information among themselves. So at the beginning, I tried to do a little bit more answering questions and some comments in the groups that immediately were created.